Okay.
Okay, this is regarding the chronological Gospels. We have several questions about the chronological Gospels. Piper asks, why does Michael think event number 127 and event 87 happened at two different times and in two different places? And why did he add of the Samaritans to Luke 9:56?
Okay, first of all, we're going to find those two incidents here and find out what he's talking about. Why do I think that event 127 and 87 are two different incidents? Okay, first of all, we have, these are two separate events, but they are two similar discourses. And this is something that we cover in the chronological Gospels. So, and also on the introduction of the chronological Gospels, because you see that Yeshua spoke, what's called the Sermon on the Mount, and then there was one that he did a couple weeks later, which is the Sermon on the Plain. Now, he covered some of the same things, but not all of the same things. And this is what it is like when you're traveling and you're teaching. You cover the same things because you only have so many people that are going to hear this. And these people need to hear the message, and a couple weeks later, he's traveling to Galilee, and he's going to be speaking the same things to another group. He's not going to cover all the same things, but some of the same things. And so what he covered to the few disciples who climbed the mount to hear him, he later preaches to an entire multitude on a plain. And those are two different things. Many people get them confused. Here we have not the question that this person has, Piper, the question that he has is not about the incidents, it's that we have the same thing being said here. In verse 21, I'll read it from Matthew, even though it's also in Luke. We see that it says, another disciple said unto him, Master, let me first go, verse 19. I'll back up to 18.
Okay.
He gave the commandment to depart to the other side, and he's talking about of the Kinneret, okay? Right. So he's literally on the Sea of Galilee, in which he calms a storm. But when he gave the command to depart to the other side, a certain scribe came to him and said, Master, I'll follow you wherever you go. And he said, the foxes have holes, the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Now, that is appropriate to someone who's asking, I want to follow you, I want to go with you. And he's giving them, the hard play here, okay? I don't know where I'm going to be staying tonight, okay? Are you ready for this lifestyle? I'm on the road. He does have a home that he stays at, a house that he stays at Capernaum, but he's not there much of the time. He stops in occasionally. And so he speaks of this. This is week number 27, and we see that Matthew, Mark, and Luke all record this very same incident. Now we go ahead to incident 127. And this is Yeshua sends envoys into the Samaritan village, and this is week 33. Not 27, but 33. This is now in the summer. Now he is literally, as we see, that incident 125, Yeshua's family leaves for the Feast of Tabernacles. Then to incident 26, Yeshua leaves for the Feast of Tabernacles. And he then, incident 127, he stops by a Samaritan village. And so this is on his way up to the Feast of Tabernacles. And when we go into what Luke says here, again, Luke covers this as well. Why do we know they're two different incidents? The same author reports both of these incidents. So they have to be two different incidents. They happen at different times. And it says that, and as they moved on to another village of the Samaritans, and I put another village, I added the words in italics of the Samaritans, because the context here is this is where they are. They're in Samaria. They have just left Shechem, and now as he leaves this area where they refuse to sell the disciples anything, any provisions, because Yeshua sets his face to go to Jerusalem. And that's why they would not receive him, because they knew that he was going to go to Jerusalem for the Feast of Tabernacles. But yet the Samaritans celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles on Mount Gerizim. In fact, it is the 10th commandment in the Samaritan Torah text, which has been changed in 167 significant places, and one of them is the 10th commandment was changed to, thou shalt worship on Mount Gerizim. You shall worship on this mountain, as the woman at the well said. So now, when they realize he is not going to play church with them on Mount Gerizim, he's going to go up to Jerusalem. They refuse to sell James and John anything, and they come back and say, Master, shall we call fire down from heaven and toast their worthless carcasses? And he said, calm down, boys. You don't know what spirits you're of. And so then they moved on to another village of the Samaritans, because we're in Samaria. And we see now, as they entered, a certain man proclaimed, Master, I will follow you anywhere you go. Yeshua replied, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no permanent place to lay his head. Does he say basically the same thing that he said to a scribe earlier that summer in the Galilee? Yes, but the reality is still there. And then he goes on and with the very same thing, I'll follow you, but let me have one last farewell with my family, a farewell feast. He's going to keep the feast one more time on Mount Gerizim with his family. Everyone's coming in. Everyone's they're cooking the turkey and everything else, and it's a family get together. Let me have one last party with my friends and family before following you. And he says, forget it. Forget it. No man that puts his hand to the plow, then looks back, is fit for the kingdom. See, Yeshua is speaking directly to that Samaritan who has the opportunity to follow him and to go up to the feast at Jerusalem, where he will hear some of the most profound prophecies concerning the last days in the latter rain outpouring of the Holy Spirit, or he can play church with his family on Mount Gerizim and miss the entire opportunity of following Yeshua.
Well, Piper's question just brings about the fact that we need to know a little bit about the geography of Israel at the time, too. Otherwise, you'd never know that those two, you would very easily confuse that those two incidents, you'd think that they were the same thing.
That's right. And when we hear similar things, see, the most important context is time. You've got to have the time in order. That's why the chronological Gospels, chronos, time in Greek, chronologically, what is in order? Because when you put everything in the Gospels in the vice of linear chronology, you squeeze out all the hot air that comes from the pulpit or from cemeteries or our own misunderstanding. When you put it all in the vice of linear chronology, and that is exactly what we are going to. So,